In the dead of night, under a moonless sky in the forgotten town of Shadow Ridge, Oregon, a blood-curdling train whistle pierces the silence like a scream from the underworld. It's not just any whistle, it's a low, guttural moan that shakes the ground, summoning shadows from the mist and drawing the unwary into an eternal loop of terror. Lights flicker in the distance, not from any living source, but from a locomotive that defies time and logic, barreling towards you with the weight of unspoken sins. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, stick around, because this is just the beginning of The Ghost Line, Rails of the Restless, a story that'll grip you tighter than a vice and won't let go. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, where I dive deep into spine-tingling tales inspired by real-life mysteries and urban legends. If you're new here, I'm your host, a veteran YouTuber with over a decade of crafting content that keeps millions hooked. Think atmospheric narration, eerie sound effects, and visuals that make you feel like you're right in the story. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get into this hour-long epic. Today's tale draws from actual reports of phantom trains across America, like the legendary Lincoln's Funeral Train sightings or the haunted tracks in the Pacific Northwest, where loggers and miners vanished without a trace. Buckle up. This ride is about to get wild. Meet Jordan Hayes, a 32-year-old construction worker with a no-nonsense attitude and a past he'd rather bury. Jordan grew up in Shadow Ridge, a misty logging town tucked away in Oregon's dense forests, where the economy crashed after the mills shut down in the 80s. The place is riddled with ghost stories, none more infamous than the Ghost Line, an abandoned railway depot from the 1800s gold rush era. Built to haul timber and ore, it was cursed after a massive derailment in 1889 that killed 60 workers in a fiery explosion. Locals whisper that the depot awakens on stormy nights, with a spectral train that only carries souls trapped by guilt, regret, or unresolved wrongs. It doesn't stop for the living, they'd say around campfires. It collects the damned. Jordan wasn't buying it. He'd left Shadow Ridge as a teen, enlisting in the army and serving tours in Afghanistan, where he saw real horrors, friends lost to IEDs, decisions that haunted him. Back home now, after a dishonorable discharge for a bar fight gone wrong, Jordan worked odd jobs, fixing up old cabins in the woods. But his real baggage? A dark secret from 5 years ago. During a heated argument with his best friend Mike Lawson over money owed from a failed business venture, things escalated. Jordan shoved Mike during a drive along the foggy coastal highway. The car veered off, plunging into a ravine. Mike didn't make it. Jordan claimed it was a slick road accident, no witnesses to contradict him. The case closed, but the guilt festered. Nightmares of Mike's final. Scream, apparitions in mirrors. A constant paranoia that karma was closing in. To escape the whispers in town, Jordan moved into a secluded trailer near the old tracks, thinking solitude would heal him. Instead, it amplified the unease. One foggy November evening, as rain pounded the roof like accusatory fingers, Jordan hiked home from a job site, cutting through the overgrown path to the Ghost Line depot. The air was thick, electric, carrying the scent of wet earth and something metallic, like blood. Then, it hit. The whistle. Not a distant echo, but a bone-rattling blast that vibrated through his chest, closer than it should be. Heart racing, Jordan approached the depot. The structure loomed like a skeleton. Rusted rails overgrown with ferns. The platform splintered and sagging. Ticket booth windows shattered like broken promises. Yet, from the mist emerged a train. Antique cars with flickering lantern lights, steam billowing despite no visible engine. No crew, no passengers in sight, just an open door beckoning like a trap. "What the hell?" Jordan muttered, his breath visible in the sudden chill. Curiosity, mixed with a defiant streak, propelled him forward. He stepped aboard, the floorboards groaning under his boots. The door slammed shut with a thunderous clang, sealing him in. As the train jolted to life, accelerating into the fog, Jordan realized too late. This wasn't a relic. It was alive, hungry, and it knew his secrets. Inside, the car was a time capsule. Plush seats faded from crimson to brown, gas lamps casting elongated shadows, a faint echo of laughter turning to sobs. Jordan's flashlight beam revealed etchings on the walls. Names, dates, pleas like "forgive me" scratched in desperation. A cold draft whispered his name, Jordan, drawing him deeper. Panic rising, he tried the doors. Locked. Windows showed not Oregon's forests, but a surreal landscape. Twisted trees bleeding sap like blood. Distant figures wandering aimlessly in the gloom. Then, a voice from the shadows. "You shouldn't have boarded, stranger." Jordan spun to face an old woman in Victorian attire, her face pale as parchment, eyes sunken voids. "This line is for the restless, the ones who can't let go. What's chaining you here?" Jordan's mouth went dry. "Who are you? Where's this train going?" She smiled faintly, teeth yellowed. "I'm Eliza, conductor of sorts. Been riding since the derailment. We go where your burdens take us. Yours seem heavy." As the train picked up speed, Jordan felt the weight of his deception crushing him. Little did he know, this was just the first stop on a journey through his own hell. As the Ghost Line train thundered into the enveloping mist, Jordan Hayes gripped the armrest of a faded velvet seat, his knuckles white against the worn fabric. The rhythmic clack-clack of the wheels on invisible tracks mocked his rising panic, each jolt sending a fresh wave of dread through his veins. Outside the grimy windows, the familiar pines of Oregon's forests twisted into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching like skeletal hands, grasping at the passing cars. This wasn't just a train ride. It was a descent into a personal abyss where every shadow hid a fragment of his shattered past. Jordan's mind flashed back to that fateful night 5 years ago, the one that had rewritten his life in blood and regret. He and Mike Lawson had been inseparable since childhood, fishing in the Shadow Ridge rivers, dreaming of starting a construction firm together, but dreams soured when money got tight. Mike borrowed cash from Jordan for a risky investment that tanked, leaving Jordan in debt and furious. That evening, after a screaming match at their favorite bar, the Timberline Tavern, Jordan insisted on driving Mike home, despite the pouring rain. Words flew like daggers. "You ruined us," Jordan yelled, shoving Mike's shoulder. In that split second of rage, the wheel slipped. The truck hydroplaned off the cliffside road, tumbling into the ravine below. Jordan survived with broken ribs and a concussion. Mike's body was recovered the next day, crushed beyond recognition. The authorities ruled it a tragic accident. Slick roads, poor visibility. Jordan played the grieving friend, attending the funeral with tears that were half genuine, half performative. But inside, the guilt corroded him like acid. He'd omitted the shove, the argument, turning a moment of violence into an act of nature. Now on this spectral train, that omission felt like a siren call, drawing him into judgment. Shaking off the memory, Jordan turned to Eliza, the ethereal old woman who'd appeared like an apparition from the train's dim corners. She sat primly, her lace-trimmed dress yellowed with age, knitting what looked like a shroud with bony fingers. "Tell me, Jordan," she said, her voice a raspy whisper that cut through the train's hum. "What ghost clings to you? We all have one here, or more." Jordan hesitated, his military training kicking in to suppress vulnerability. "This is some kind of joke, right? Hallucination from the fog? Let me off at the next stop." Eliza's laugh was dry, like autumn leaves crunching underfoot. Oh dear boy, there are no stops unless you earn them. This train's been running since the derailment of '89. I was a nurse on board, tending to injured loggers. But I had my secrets too. Poisoned a rival for a man's affection. Died in the crash, but my soul? Stuck, looping through regrets. You're no different. As she spoke, the car seemed to come alive. Faint outlines of other passengers materialized. A burly logger with an axe embedded in his translucent chest, murmuring about a sabotaged brake line. A young mother clutching a spectral baby, weeping over a fire she'd started in jealousy. Their stories unfolded in hushed tones, each one a mirror to Jordan's turmoil. He wandered the aisle, eavesdropping, feeling the weight of collective sorrow pressing down. In the next car, Jordan encountered a man who could have been his reflection. Tall, weathered, with haunted eyes. "Name's Harlan Reed," the man said, extending a hand that passed through Jordan's like smoke. "Vietnam vet. Killed my sergeant in a fit of rage during the war, covered it as enemy fire. Rode this train for decades until I confessed in a dream to his family. What's your poison?" Jordan shared fragments of his story, the words spilling out reluctantly at first, then in a torrent. Harlan nodded, sharing tales of the train's deeper horrors. Cars that replayed your worst moments in vivid, inescapable loops. Stations where forgotten victims awaited confrontation. "The high point comes when you face the one you wronged," Harlan warned. "Mike's waiting, I bet. And he ain't alone." Tension built as the train plunged into a tunnel of pure darkness, the lights flickering out. Screams echoed from afar, passengers reliving their deaths. Jordan's flashlight died, leaving him in inky blackness. Hands, cold, insistent, grabbed at him, pulling him toward the end of the car. "Confess," a chorus whispered, "or stay forever." When the lights returned, Jordan was alone again, save for Eliza. "First test passed," she said cryptically, "but the real climb's ahead." The train emerged into a stormy vista, lightning illuminating a distant platform where shadowy figures gathered. Jordan's heart pounded. Mike's silhouette among them? The narrative paused on this cliffhanger, building anticipation for the revelations to come. Jordan realized escape meant diving deeper into his psyche, confronting not just Mike, but the chain of lies that bound him. The Ghost Line train shuddered as it approached the ethereal platform, brakes screeching like tormented souls in the void. Jordan Hayes pressed against the window, his breath fogging the glass, eyes wide with a mix of terror and grim determination. The mist outside parted to reveal a station that defied reality. Crumbling stone arches draped in glowing vines, lanterns swinging wildly in an unfelt wind, casting erratic shadows that danced like demons. This wasn't a stop on any map, it was a manifestation of buried sins. A purgatory station where the restless came to bargain or break. The doors hissed open, releasing a gust of icy air laced with the metallic tang of regret, pulling Jordan inexorably toward the platform. Eliza's voice echoed behind him, faint but insistent. "This is your first reckoning, Jordan. Face it, or the train claims you forever." Harlan Reed, the vet from the previous car, clapped a ghostly hand on his shoulder, cold, but somehow reassuring. "I've been through a dozen of these. It hurts like hell, but it's the only way off this ride. Go on, son." Jordan stepped out, boots crunching on what felt like shattered glass, but looked like frost-covered gravel. The platform buzzed with activity, spectral figures shuffling about, some boarding with resigned slumps, others vanishing in bursts of light or darkness. Whispers assaulted him from all sides. Betrayer, liar, killer. Each word a needle pricking his conscience. He scanned the crowd, heart hammering, until his gaze locked on a familiar face. Not Mike, thank God, but Sarah Klein, his ex-girlfriend from high school, the one he'd wronged long before the accident. Sarah stood there, unchanged from her teenage years, long auburn hair, freckles across her nose, but her eyes held an otherworldly sorrow, rimmed with ethereal tears that shimmered like stardust. She wore the prom dress from their senior year, now tattered and stained with phantom dirt. "Jordan Hayes," she intoned, her voice a haunting melody that echoed across the platform. "You left me broken, didn't you? Promised forever, then ghosted me for the army, leaving me to deal with the fallout alone." Memories flooded Jordan like a tidal wave. Back in Shadow Ridge, they'd been the golden couple, homecoming king and queen, plans for marriage after graduation. But Jordan, scared of small-town life, enlisted without telling her, breaking up via a terse letter. Sarah spiraled into depression. Rumors said she'd attempted suicide. He'd heard, but never reached out. Too ashamed? Now here she was, a ghost of his callousness. I was young, stupid," Jordan stammered, stepping closer as the crowd of spirits encircled them, their murmurs growing louder. "I thought I was doing you a favor, setting you free." Sarah's form flickered, anger distorting her features into something monstrous, eyes blackening, skin cracking like porcelain. "Free? You shattered me. I spent years wondering why I wasn't enough. Your silence was worse than any wound. The platform trembled, winds howling as debris, splintered wood, rusted nails whirled around them in a vortex. Jordan shielded his face, but invisible forces shoved him to his knees. The climax built relentlessly. Sarah lunged, her hands phasing through him, but each touch burned like fire, replaying their breakup in vivid hallucinations. He saw himself writing the letter, felt her heart break as if it were his own. "Admit it," she screamed, the storm intensifying, lightning cracking overhead. "You ran from responsibility then, just like with Mike." Tears streaming, Jordan confessed fully. "I was a coward. I loved you, but I was terrified of commitment. I hurt you, and I've carried that shame ever since. Please forgive me, or at least let me make it right." His voice broke, raw emotion pouring out. The admission hung in the air, and slowly the winds died down. Sarah's rage softened, her form stabilizing. "Words are a start," she whispered, "but actions seal the deal. Help others heal from abandonment. Only then will this chain break." With a nod, she dissolved into a warm glow, absorbed by the mist. Jordan collapsed, exhausted but lighter, as the train's whistle pierced the calm. A summons back aboard. He staggered through the doors just as they closed, the platform fading behind him. Back in the car, Eliza awaited with a knowing smile. "One down. But the big one's coming. Mike won't be so easy." Harlan shared a flask of illusory whiskey, recounting his own first reckoning to ease the tension. As the train accelerated, Jordan reflected. This journey wasn't just punishment, it was purification. Deeper cars beckoned, promising greater trials, but for the first time, hope flickered amid the dread. The story wove onward, layering suspense with introspection, setting up for escalating confrontations that would test Jordan's resolve to its core. With the Ghost Line train hurtling away from the first reckoning platform, Jordan Hayes slumped into a seat, his body trembling from the emotional onslaught of confronting Sarah. The car's dim lights flickered like a faulty heartbeat, casting long shadows that seemed to mock his vulnerability. Eliza, the eternal conductor, observed him with a mix of pity and stern wisdom, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically, a sound that now felt like the ticking of a doomsday clock. Harlan Reed paced the aisle, his translucent form phasing through seats, sharing war stories to steady Jordan's nerves. But the air grew heavier, thicker with anticipation, as if the train itself sensed the escalating stakes ahead. Jordan wiped sweat from his brow, the confession to Sarah still echoing in his mind. It had been cathartic, yes, but incomplete, like lancing a wound without fully cleaning it. "How many more?" he asked Eliza, voice hoarse. "How deep does this go?" She paused her knitting, eyes glinting in the low light. "As many as your soul demands. Each stop peels back a layer. You've faced abandonment. Next comes betrayal. And trust me, boy, betrayal cuts deepest." Harlan nodded gravely. "In Nam, I betrayed my unit. Took me 3 stops to break free. Yours? It's building to something big. Mike's the pinnacle, but the path's littered with shards." As the train plunged into a dense, fog-shrouded forest that shouldn't exist, trees with bark etched in screaming faces, the narrative deepened. Jordan explored further cars, each one a escalation in horror. In one, passengers reenacted their deaths in looping pantomimes, a banker jumping from a ledge, a driver crashing eternally. Their silent screams amplified Jordan's guilt, forcing him to relive snippets of his own past: the shove, the crash, Mike's lifeless eyes in the wreckage. A new passenger appeared, a grizzled army buddy from Jordan's tours, Sergeant Tom Vargas, who died in an ambush Jordan had indirectly caused by ignoring intel during a heated argument. Tom materialized mid-car, uniform torn and bloodied, rifle slung over his shoulder. "Hayes," he growled, voice gravelly with accusation. "You argued with command, delayed the patrol. My blood's on your hands." Jordan recoiled, the betrayal hitting like a gut punch. "Tom? No. It was chaos out there. I didn't mean—" "Intentions don't resurrect the dead." Tom's form swelled, the car shaking violently. Winds howled inside, papers and debris swirling in a mini tornado. Jordan was lifted off his feet, slammed against the wall, visions assaulting him. The Afghan desert, explosions, Tom's final moments. The high point surged, Tom's ghost charged, phasing through Jordan, each pass igniting phantom pain from old wounds. "Confess," Tom roared, the train tilting dangerously, rails groaning as if ready to derail. Pinned and desperate, Jordan shouted his truth. "I was angry, reckless. I ignored the warning because I thought I knew better. Your death haunts me. I'm sorry, Tom. I should have listened. Should have been better." The admission cracked the air like thunder. Tom's rage ebbed, his form shrinking. "Apologies are seeds," he murmured. "Plant them in the living world. Honor the fallen by changing." With that, he faded into mist, leaving Jordan bruised but unbowed. The train stabilized, but the toll was evident. Jordan's face aged, lines etched deeper. Eliza approached. 2 down, but feel that pull? The next stop's calling louder. Harlan shared a tale of his own betrayal reckoning, heightening the suspense. "Mine involved a brother in arms. Nearly broke me. Yours with Mike? It'll be war." As they sped toward a glowing horizon, a station ablaze with infernal lights, Jordan pieced together the logic. Each confrontation built on the last, stripping defenses, preparing him for the ultimate face-off. Whispers from the walls grew insistent. "Mike waits. Mike knows." The cliffhanger loomed, the train slowing, doors creaking open to reveal a platform teeming with military ghosts, Mike's figure looming largest among them. This segment ramped up the intensity, blending action with introspection, ensuring viewers stayed riveted as Jordan's journey spiraled toward its terrifying zenith. The Ghost Line train barreled onward, leaving the betrayal platform in its spectral wake. But the echoes of Tom Vargas's confrontation lingered like smoke in Jordan Hayes's lungs. He staggered back to his seat, body aching from phantom blows, mind reeling from the raw exposure of his wartime sins. Eliza hovered nearby, her presence a constant reminder of the train's unrelenting judgment, while Harlan Reed offered a spectral cigar, illusory, yet its bitter taste grounded Jordan in the moment. The cars rattled with increased ferocity now, as if the locomotive fed on his turmoil, gaining speed toward the heart of his darkness. Jordan closed his eyes, but sleep evaded him. Instead, visions assaulted his senses. He saw the Afghan sands again, heard the blast that claimed Tom, felt the weight of ignored warnings. But layered beneath was the deeper wound. Mike Lawson, his childhood friend, whose death was no distant war casualty, but an intimate betrayal born of greed and anger. "How much worse will Mike be?" Jordan muttered, voice barely audible over the train's roar. Eliza leaned in, her voice a soothing yet ominous lullaby. "The summit approaches, where all paths converge. Mike's not just a ghost, he's the anchor chaining you. But remember, each reckoning strengthens you, like forging steel in fire." Harlan chimed in with his gravelly wisdom. "My final stop was with the family I left behind. Broke me open, but set me free. Yours? It'll be a war zone. Prepare." The narrative escalated as the train entered a vast, stormy expanse, a surreal sea of clouds pierced by lightning, where floating islands held ruins of Jordan's life, his old army barracks, the Timberline Tavern, the cliffside road where Mike died. In the adjoining car, more passengers emerged, their stories intertwining with Jordan's to heighten the drama. A grieving widow accused a hit-and-run driver. A businessman faced embezzled partners. Each confession amplified the tension, their releases lighting the car in brief flashes, urging Jordan forward. Then, a new apparition solidified. Jordan's own mother, Evelyn Hayes, who'd passed from cancer 2 years ago, her form frail but accusatory. She wore her favorite floral apron, but it was singed at the edges, symbolizing unspoken family wounds. "Jordan," she sighed, voice carrying the weight of maternal disappointment. "You promised to visit more, but you ran from home like you ran from everything. My last days were lonely because of you." This hit Jordan harder than any physical assault. Evelyn had raised him alone after his father's abandonment, sacrificing everything. He'd enlisted to escape Shadow Ridge's poverty, sending money but rarely calls, missing her final months lost in his own chaos. "Mom, I thought I was building a better life for us," he pleaded, tears welling. Her eyes flashed with sorrowful fire. "Excuses? You betrayed the bond we had. And now look at you, carrying deaths like badges." The car transformed. Walls morphed into hospital rooms, beeps of monitors syncing with the train's rhythm. Winds howled, Evelyn's form expanding into a tempest, hurling Jordan across the floor. Visions intensified, her bedside pleas unanswered, his phone ignored amid bar nights. The climax peaked in chaos. Jordan crawled toward her, dodging ethereal debris, shouting confessions. "I was selfish, scared of seeing you weak. I failed you, Mom. Forgive me. I'll honor your memory, help families like ours." His words, laced with genuine remorse, calmed the storm. Evelyn's touch, warm for the first time, brushed his cheek. "Live better, son. Break the cycle." She dissolved in a gentle light, leaving Jordan sobbing, yet empowered. The train lurched, signaling the approach to the ultimate station, a colossal platform wreathed in flames, where Mike's silhouette dominated, surrounded by echoes of all prior ghosts. Eliza warned, "This is it, the summit. Survive this, and freedom awaits." Harlan faded slightly, his time nearing end. "You've got the fire now, use it." As doors opened to infernal heat, Jordan stepped out, ready for the final battle, the story teetering on the edge of redemption or eternal damnation. The doors of the Ghost Line train slid open with a hiss that sounded like 1,000 sighs of resignation. unleashing a blast of scorching heat that singed Jordan Hayes's skin and made his eyes water. He stood at the threshold, staring into the heart of the Inferno station, a vast, flaming platform forged from twisted metal and molten rock, where rivers of lava snaked through cracks and pillars of fire erupted sporadically like geysers from hell. The air reeked of sulfur and charred regrets, and the distant wails of tormented souls blended with the train's idling rumble. This was no ordinary stop. It was the culmination, the blazing crucible, where all of Jordan's sins converged, demanding a final, unforgiving accounting. Eliza's voice cut through the din, steady but urgent. This is the end of the line for you, Jordan, or the beginning of release. Mike awaits in the flames. Face him with everything you've learned, or burn eternally. Harlan Reed, his form now faint and wavering as if his own redemption neared, gripped Jordan's arm one last time. You've climbed the mountain, kid. Now summit it. Remember, truth is your weapon, remorse your shield. With a nod, Harlan dissolved into sparks, leaving Jordan alone to step into the inferno. The platform was a chaotic arena. Ghosts from Jordan's past milled about in agony. Sarah, Tom, Evelyn, and others he'd wronged indirectly, their forms distorted by the heat, chanting a dirge of accusations. But at the center, atop a pedestal of smoldering wreckage, resembling the twisted remains of Jordan's truck, stood Mike Lawson. He was as Jordan remembered, broad-shouldered, with an easy grin now twisted into a snarl of betrayal, clothes torn from the crash, skin marred by ethereal bruises and cuts that wept ghostly blood. "Finally showed up, huh, buddy?" Mike boomed, his voice amplified by the flames shaking the ground. "Thought you'd run forever, like you ran from me that night." Jordan approached cautiously, sweat pouring down his face, the heat intensifying with each step as if the station fed on his fear. "Mike, I can't even begin to—" But words failed as memories assaulted him in vivid, searing detail. The bar fight, the drive home, the shove that sent the truck careening off the road. He saw it all again. Mike's shocked eyes, the plunge, the silence after the crash. Mike descended the pedestal, growing larger, his form engulfing the platform in shadow. "You killed me, Jordan." "Over money? A stupid argument? And then you lied, played the victim at my funeral while I rotted in that ravine." The flames roared higher, encircling them in a ring of fire. Lava bubbled up, forming barriers that trapped Jordan. Mike's hands ignited, hurling fireballs that Jordan dodged, each impact exploding in visions of their shared past, boyhood adventures, the business dreams, the fatal betrayal. The tension mounted to a fever pitch, the ultimate high point. Mike charged, his fiery grasp closing around Jordan's throat, lifting him off the ground. Pain exploded through Jordan's body, not just physical, but emotional. Feeling Mike's terror, his final thoughts of friendship shattered. "Why?" Mike screamed, the station quaking, cracks widening to swallow lesser ghosts. "Give me one reason not to drag you down with me?" Choking, vision blurring, Jordan mustered his strength, drawing from every prior reckoning. "Because I was wrong, blind with rage, selfish as hell. That shove, it haunts me every damn day. I covered it up out of cowardice, but no more. I'm sorry, Mike, from the depths of my soul. If I could trade places, I would. Let me make it right. Tell your family the truth. Live in honor of you." His voice rose above the inferno, raw and resolute. The admission hung like a cooling breeze. Mike's grip loosened, his rage flickering like dying embers. The flames receded, lava hardening. Words, "But I see it in your eyes now," the change. Mike's form softened, reverting to the friend Jordan knew. "Go back. live better, break the chains for both of us. With a final, forgiving nod, Mike erupted in a burst of purifying light, dispersing the inferno. The station calmed, transforming into a serene, dawn-lit platform. Jordan collapsed, exhausted but free as the train's whistle sounded. A gentle call this time. Eliza appeared, smiling truly. "You've done it. The line ends here for you." As the train prepared to depart without him, Jordan awoke on the misty tracks near Shadow Ridge, the depot silent once more. But the journey's lessons burned bright, setting the stage for real-world redemption. As the sun climbed higher over Shadow Ridge, Oregon, Jordan Hayes found himself navigating the uncharted waters of a life reborn from the ashes of his spectral journey. Released on probation after his confession, he returned to his trailer, but it no longer felt like a hideout. It was a launch pad. The ghost line's lessons pulsed in his veins. Face the past, honor the lost, break the chains of guilt. But redemption wasn't a one-night epiphany. It was a daily grind, a series of ripples extending outward, touching lives he'd never imagined. Jordan started small, with tangible actions rooted in his reckonings. Remembering Sarah's plea against abandonment, he volunteered at the local community center, facilitating support groups for those dealing with breakups and loss. "I've been there," he'd shared during sessions, his voice steady but laced with humility. "Running away only drags the pain along. Let's face it together." Participants nodded, stories flowing like opened floodgates. One woman, abandoned by her husband, found solace in Jordan's tale, crediting him with her decision to seek therapy. It wasn't glamorous, but each mended heart felt like a victory against the train's shadows. For Tom Vargas and his wartime echo, Jordan dove into veterans' affairs. He joined the Shadow Ridge 5th FW Post, organizing fundraisers for PTSD programs. Drawing from his Army days, he spoke at events, admitting his recklessness in Afghanistan. "I ignored warnings, cost a brother his life," he'd confessed to hushed crowds. "Don't bury your mistakes. Learn from them." Donations poured in, funding counseling for local vets. One soldier, fresh from deployment, pulled Jordan aside. "Your story saved me from the bottle. Thanks, man." These moments built emotional layers, showing redemption's real-world impact, heightening viewer engagement with relatable growth. Evelyn's memory drove the most personal changes. Jordan visited her grave weekly, tending the plot with fresh flowers and quiet reflections. He reached out to estranged family, aunties and cousins scattered across Oregon, rebuilding bridges burned by his absence. At a family reunion he organized, tears flowed as he apologized. "Mom deserved better from me. Let's not repeat the cycle." The gathering healed old wounds, with cousins sharing Evelyn's stories, turning grief into shared legacy. Jordan even started a blog, honoring the overlooked, chronicling ways to cherish loved ones, amassing a small but dedicated following online. But the core ripple was with Mike's family. Lena Lawson, initially wary, invited Jordan over after months of correspondence. Sitting in her living room, surrounded by Mike's photos, Jordan detailed the accident without filters, the argument, the shove, his cover-up. "I can't bring him back," he said, eyes meeting hers, "but I can live in a way that honors him." Lena's response was measured. Forgiveness wasn't immediate, but she appreciated the truth. Together, they established the Mike Lawson Memorial Fund, aiding small businesses in Shadow Ridge to prevent the financial disputes that fueled their tragedy. Jordan poured his construction skills into it, mentoring young entrepreneurs. "Mike and I dreamed of building something," he'd tell them. "Let's make it real." Challenges arose, adding tension to the narrative. Not everyone accepted Jordan's turnaround. Old bar buddies shunned him, calling him a snitch. Anonymous threats appeared, hinting at unresolved grudges. One night, fog rolled in thick, and Jordan heard a faint whistle, heart racing. Was the train returning? He ventured to the depot, flashlight in hand, but found only silence, and a lost hiker whom he guided home. Coincidence? He wondered, but it reinforced vigilance. Slip back into old ways, and the rails might beckon again. Community service evolved into passion projects. Jordan led renovations at the old depot, turning it into a historical site with plaques detailing the 1889 derailment and moral tales of regret. Tours drew tourists, blending history with life lessons. Ghosts aren't just spirits, there are unaddressed mistakes. Revenue supported local causes, creating a positive loop. As months turned to a year, Jordan's transformation inspired others. A town hall meeting featured him as a speaker on accountability, drawing applause. Relationships blossomed. A tentative romance with Clara Bennett, the deputy, built on mutual respect. Yet he remained humble, knowing redemption was ongoing. This part wove triumph with subtle suspense, showing ripples expanding, setting up for broader lessons while keeping viewers invested in Jordan's evolving world. Even as Jordan Hayes' life in Shadow Ridge began to stabilize, weaving threads of redemption into the fabric of his daily existence, shadows of doubt crept in like the persistent Oregon mist, subtle at first, then thickening into storms of uncertainty. It had been over a year since his awakening on the tracks, and while the ghost line's whistle remained silent, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that the supernatural journey had left an indelible mark, a lingering vulnerability that tested his resolve. This phase of his story delved into the psychological aftermath, ramping up internal conflict to keep the narrative gripping, reminding viewers that true change is a battle against relapse. Jordan's days were filled with purpose. Mornings at the community center leading workshops on accountability, afternoons hammering nails at depot renovations, evenings journaling reflections for his blog. The Mike Lawson Memorial Fund thrived, funding 3 startups in its first year, each success a balm on old wounds. Lena Lawson became an unlikely ally, co-hosting events where Jordan shared his story anonymously at first, then openly. "Your honesty gives others permission to heal," she'd say, her voice softening over time. Clara Bennett, the deputy, evolved from professional acquaintance to confidant, their dates walks along the foggy trails where Jordan confessed lingering fears. "What if it wasn't real?" he'd whisper. "What if I'm just fooling myself?" But doubt manifested in vivid ways. Nightmares returned. Not the full train ride, but fragments. Eliza's knitting needles morphing into accusatory fingers, Mike's fiery silhouette flickering in mirrors. One stormy night, Jordan bolted awake to what sounded like a distant whistle, heart pounding. He grabbed his flashlight and drove to the depot, the rain-slicked roads echoing the fatal drive with Mike. The platform was empty, but a chill wind carried whispers. "Don't forget." Was it the wind or a warning? He confided in Clara, who suggested therapy. "PTSD from your army days mixed with guilt," she diagnosed. Jordan started sessions with a counselor, unpacking layers, abandonment issues from his father's absence, amplified by Evelyn's death. The shove with Mike as a culmination of unchecked anger. External challenges heightened the tension. A skeptical journalist from Portland sniffed around Shadow Ridge, drawn by rumors of Jordan's miraculous turnaround. An article questioned his motives, hero or hypocrite, confessed killer turned saint. Online trolls piled on, dredging up army records, accusing him of faking remorse for leniency. Jordan faced backlash at a town meeting. Mike's old drinking buddies heckled, "You think apologies erase blood?" The confrontation escalated. One man shoved Jordan, mirroring the fatal moment. Jordan restrained himself, walking away, but the incident shook him. "Am I really changed?" he journaled that night. To counter doubt, Jordan sought evidence of impact. He tracked stories, a vet from his group who reconciled with family, a youth mentee avoiding jail through better choices, Sarah responding to his letter with forgiveness, inviting him to her wedding. These wins built resilience, but a pivotal test came when an old Army comrade, hearing of Jordan's work, contacted him about a similar cover-up. "I caused a friendly fire incident," the man confessed. Jordan guided him through disclosure, reliving his own process. The comrade's successful redemption mirrored Jordan's, solidifying belief. The train's lessons were universal tools for healing. Yet subtle supernatural hints kept suspense alive. During a depot tour, a tourist claimed to hear a whistle. Jordan dismissed it, but later found an old ticket stub in his pocket. Impossible, yet there. Clara investigated. Probably a prank. But it prompted Jordan to research ghost trains online, discovering similar legends in other states. Appalachian rails haunted by miners, Midwest lines carrying Civil War dead. If it's real, he pondered, maybe I'm a conductor now, helping others off the ride. As doubts waned, Jordan proposed to Clara under the depot's restored arches, symbolizing new beginnings. The wedding, attended by reconciled friends and family, marked a turning point. But in quiet moments, Jordan visited Mike's grave, whispering updates. "I'm living better, buddy, for both of us." This segment explored vulnerability, blending triumphs with trials, paving the way for the story's philosophical close while maintaining emotional hooks. With the shadows of doubt beginning to recede like the morning fog over Shadow Ridge's forests, Jordan Hayes embraced a renewed commitment to his transformed life, turning introspection into action that forged new paths forward. Over a year and a half since his harrowing ride on the Ghost Line, Jordan had become a pillar in the community. Not as a saint, but as a flawed man owning his mistakes, inspiring others to do the same. This chapter of his journey focused on consolidation and growth, weaving triumphs with final tests, building toward the story's profound culmination, while keeping the narrative's momentum alive with emotional depth and subtle intrigue. Jordan's blog, Honoring the Overlooked, exploded in popularity after a local news feature went viral. What started as personal reflections now boasted thousands of subscribers, with readers sharing their own stories of guilt and redemption. "Your train metaphor hit home," one commenter wrote. "I confess to embezzling at work, lost my job, but gained my soul." Jordan responded personally, fostering a virtual support network. This digital outreach extended his ripples beyond Oregon, connecting with people nationwide facing similar burdens. He collaborated with podcasters on episodes about accountability, his voice steady as he recounted sanitized versions of his nightmare awakening, emphasizing the universal truth: unaddressed regret traps us in loops. In Shadow Ridge, the renovated depot stood as a beacon. Jordan spearheaded its grand reopening as the Rails of Reflection Museum, complete with interactive exhibits on the 1889 derailment and modern parallels to personal derailments. Tours included candlelit ghost stories, but Jordan steered them toward morals. Ghosts are metaphors for our pasts. Face them, or they haunt you. Revenue-funded scholarships through the Mike Lawson Memorial Fund, awarding the first to a young mechanic who'd overcome a DUI charge. At the ceremony, Lena Lawson hugged Jordan publicly. "Mike would be proud," she whispered, their shared grief evolving into mutual healing. Romantic stability anchored him further. Clara Bennett, now his fiancée, planned their wedding at the depot, symbolic of rebuilding on haunted ground. Their relationship wasn't fairy tale perfect. Arguments arose over Jordan's obsessive community work, echoing his old avoidance patterns. "You're still running, just in a different direction," Clara challenged during a heated dinner. It prompted Jordan to balance better, incorporating date nights and therapy check-ins. These domestic scenes added relatability, showing redemption as ongoing maintenance, not a finish line. Yet forging new rails meant confronting residual echoes. A mysterious letter arrived, unsigned, postmarked from Afghanistan, accusing Jordan of more wartime secrets. Tom wasn't the only one you failed. Panic surged. Was this a ghost from the train or a real threat? Jordan investigated with Clara's help, tracing it to a former squad mate harboring grudges. They met in Portland. The man, battling his own demons, admitted fabricating details out of jealousy over Jordan's turnaround. "How'd you get free?" he asked. Jordan shared his story, offering resources. The resolution diffused the tension, but it reignited mild paranoia. Faint whistles and dreams, unexplained chills at the depot. To solidify his path, Jordan pursued certification as a life coach, specializing in trauma recovery. Classes in Eugene challenged him intellectually, applying psychological frameworks to his experiences. He studied concepts like post-traumatic growth, realizing his journey mirrored real science. Adversity, when faced, builds resilience. Guest lecturing at a university, he captivated students with anonymized tales, blending horror with hope. "Guilt isn't a curse, it's a compass," he'd say, drawing applause. Family ties strengthened too. Jordan hosted holidays, inviting extended relatives for honest conversations. "I abandoned you all like Dad did me," he admitted over turkey. Forgiveness flowed, mending generational wounds. A cousin, inspired, confessed her own secrets, starting a chain reaction of family healings. As winter approached, a community crisis tested Jordan's mettle. A mill fire displaced workers, echoing the depot's history. Jordan rallied volunteers, using the museum as a relief hub. Amid the chaos, he heard a real whistle, a freight train passing nearby. But it triggered no fear, only gratitude. "The old line's quiet because I've built a new one," he reflected. This part celebrated progress while hinting at closure. Troisièmes, preparing for the story's reflective denouement, where lessons would crystallize with real-world anchors. As Jordan Hayes' new rails extended further into the horizon of his life in Shadow Ridge, Oregon, the echoes of his Ghost Line experience began to resonate not just within him, but across the community and beyond, creating a symphony of change that harmonized personal growth with collective healing. Nearly 2 years post-awakening, Jordan had evolved from a haunted recluse into a beacon of resilience. His story, a living testament to the power of facing one's demons. This penultimate chapter amplified the scope, they gained, showcasing broader impacts while introducing a climactic reflection, priming the audience for the story's enlightening close with sustained suspense and heartfelt moments. The Rails of Reflection Museum had become a regional draw, attracting visitors from Portland and beyond who sought more than thrills. They craved inspiration. Jordan curated special events, Night of Confessions, where attendees anonymously shared regrets via written notes burned in a ceremonial fire, symbolizing release. One evening, a middle-aged woman approached him post-event, tears streaming. "Your tale about the train? It mirrored my hit and run from years ago. I'm turning myself in tomorrow." Jordan hugged her, whispering encouragement drawn from his own trials. These interactions multiplied, with emails flooding his inbox, a CEO admitting corporate fraud, a parent reconciling with estranged children. Jordan's response? Personalized guidance, often referencing psychological studies he'd encountered in coaching classes, like Harvard's research on forgiveness-reducing stress hormones, proving science backed his supernatural nudge. Community ties deepened exponentially. The Mike Lawson Memorial Fund expanded, partnering with state programs to offer microloans for at-risk entrepreneurs. Jordan mentored a diverse group, a single mom launching a bakery, a vet starting a woodworking shop. At a fund gala, Lena Lawson presented Jordan with Mike's old toolbox, engraved with "Build Better." "You've turned our pain into purpose," she said, the room erupting in applause. Clara, by his side, squeezed his hand. Their wedding approaching, a celebration of second chances, but Jordan kept it grounded, incorporating therapy insights, mindfulness exercises to combat recurring doubts, ensuring his foundation remained solid. Yet, echoes sometimes carried warnings. During a museum tour, a storm brewed, lightning illuminating the tracks. A young tourist, wide-eyed, claimed to see a faint train silhouette in the fog. Jordan's pulse quickened. Was it residual energy, or a sign for someone else? He investigated discreetly, discovering the teen harbored a secret shoplifting addiction born of family neglect. Drawing him aside, Jordan shared abbreviated versions of his reckonings. "Don't wait for a ghost train, face it now." The boy confessed to his parents that night, averting a potential spiral. Incidents like this kept the supernatural thread alive, suggesting the ghost line wasn't exclusive to Jordan. It was a metaphor for universal unrest, perhaps even real in liminal spaces. Professionally, Jordan's coaching certification led to opportunities, speaking at TEDx-like events in Eugene, where he blended folklore with facts. "Regret activates the brain's amygdala like fear," he'd explain, citing fMRI studies from UCLA. "But confession rewires it toward empathy." Audiences left motivated, with one executive crediting Jordan for a company-wide ethics overhaul. His blog evolved into a podcast, Tracks to Tomorrow, featuring guests like Lena and Clara, discussing real-life applications of accountability. Downloads soared, fostering a global community. Personal milestones marked progress too. Jordan and Clara honeymooned in the Cascades, hiking trails where he proposed scattering symbolic guilt ashes, a ritual burning of old letters from his past. Their marriage symbolized integration. Clara's law enforcement background complemented Jordan's reformative zeal, leading to joint workshops on restorative justice. Family expanded. A pregnancy announcement brought joy, with Jordan vowing to be the present father he never had. But a final echo tested him. An anonymous tip to authorities about overlooked details in Mike's case, potentially reopening the investigation. Doubt resurfaced, paranoia of spectral retribution. Clara investigated. It was a disgruntled former friend seeking revenge. Confronting the man, Jordan offered dialogue over conflict. "I've been there. Anger chains you. Let's talk." The resolution? The accuser joined a support group, turning adversary into ally. As echoes faded into harmony, Jordan stood at the depot one twilight, the silent tracks a reminder of traversed distances. His life, once derailed, now forged ahead, ready to impart timeless wisdom. Years after his transformative night on the Ghost Line, Jordan Hayes stood as a testament to the profound power of redemption. His life in Shadow Ridge, Oregon, a living blueprint for turning spectral hauntings into sources of strength. The Depot Museum thrived as a cultural hub, drawing crowds not just for its eerie history, but for the workshops Jordan led on personal accountability. His podcast, Tracks to Tomorrow, had grown into a platform with guests from psychologists to survivors, each episode dissecting the anatomy of regret and the roadmap to release. Clara, now his wife, collaborated on episodes about legal and emotional facets of confession. Their young daughter, named Evelyn after his mother, symbolizing the full circle of healing. The Mike Lawson Memorial Fund had scaled statewide, empowering dozens of entrepreneurs and preventing the kind of disputes that once destroyed friendships. Jordan's influence extended far. A book deal materialized, Riding the Ghost Line, a journey through guilt and grace, blending his story with anonymous testimonials. Royalties funneled back into community programs, like scholarships for therapy access, Yet, in reflective moments by the silent tracks, Jordan pondered the train's legacy, not as a curse, but a catalyst. No more whistles disturbed the night. Instead, locals shared tales of their own awakenings, crediting Jordan's openness for sparking change. One mentee, a former addict, credited him. "You showed me confession isn't weakness, it's freedom." These echoes affirmed his path, but Jordan remained vigilant, attending annual retreats to revisit his reckonings, ensuring old patterns stayed buried. As the sun set on another day, Jordan gathered with family at the depot for a picnic, the rusted rails a harmless relic. Clara leaned in. "You've built something eternal here." He nodded, knowing the true eternity lay in the lessons imparted. And so, dear viewers, as our tale of the ghost line, Rails of the Restless, draws to a close, let's unpack the profound life lesson woven through Jordan's odyssey. Confronting guilt through confession and seeking forgiveness isn't just a path to personal peace. It's a scientifically backed strategy for mental and emotional liberation, applicable to everyday life. In real life, holding on to secrets breeds chronic stress, manifesting as anxiety, depression, or even physical ailments like hypertension. But confessing guilt offers emotional relief, lightening the psychological load and fostering self-esteem. Studies show that structured confession and forgiveness-seeking behaviors measurably reduce stress markers, such as cortisol levels, leading to improved overall well-being. For instance, self-forgiveness, a key step after admission, rids individuals of debilitating shame, particularly for trauma survivors, promoting resilience and healthier relationships. Research highlights how forgiveness provides psychological benefits like decreased guilt, lower anxiety, and enhanced spiritual health, freeing people to live more fully. In practical terms, think of real-world applications. A study on offenders seeking forgiveness found it fosters self-insight, mends relationships, and reduces recidivism, mirroring Jordan's community service, turning personal pain into communal gain. Even from a non-religious lens, admitting wrongs boosts mental health by rewiring the brain toward empathy, as seen in forgiveness-focused therapies that lower distress. This lesson ties into American folklore too, where ghost train legends abound, symbolizing unresolved regrets. Tales like the Phantom Train of Marshall Pass in Colorado, where a ghostly locomotive chases those with unfinished business, echo Jordan's ride, or the haunted L and N line in Kentucky, with apparitions along tracks tied to tragic wrecks, reminding us of buried traumas resurfacing. The San Antonio Railroad tracks, haunted by child spirits from a bus crash, push vehicles uphill as if urging resolution. These stories, rooted in real historical disasters like the Boston Bridge wreck in North Carolina, aren't mere scares. They're cultural metaphors for the unrest of unconfessed sins, much like Jordan's spectral journey. Apply this today. If guilt weighs you down, start small. Journal your regrets, confide in a trusted friend, or seek professional help. The evidence is clear. Confession heals, forgiveness frees, and facing the past propels you forward. Thanks for joining this hour-long ride. Subscribe for more tales that blend chills with life-changing insights. What's your takeaway? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, keep your tracks clear.